We are live. So this is the first episode of Wicked Connected, the Boston Way, a podcast about networking that came out of a crazy idea that these four people that you see on the screen said, hey, there needs to be people talking about networking in Boston. So I think maybe just to start off, we want to introduce ourselves. I'm Jeff, and I am an author, coach, speaker, and in the process of building my own business. I'll pass it over to Amelia to introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi everyone. Excited for our first podcast here. I don't know if I'm as dynamic as Jeff, but I recently just accepted a role as a business development partner with Supporting Strategies. We were talking earlier about what is the coolest part of networking. And I think the opportunities you get is definitely the coolest part. I'm sure as we go through this podcast, we will hear more about that.
Yes, we're definitely asking you about what exactly happened. But
I know it's crazy, and it is a good story, and it's honestly very touching as well. So it's guys, get out there, do it. I can pass the kind of baton over to Taylor next to introduce herself as well.
Yes, thanks, Amelia, and congrats. Can't wait to go over all of that information, and really excited for us to all be together to do this. I think we'll all fully deep dive into this, but the importance of networking professionally, personally. I've gotten 3 book clubs out of it. So it's keeping me busy in a multitude of ways. But my background is actually in strategic partnerships, growth, and really strategy overall. So I actually work within tax incentives and tax strategies, but have a quite diverse background. But through and through, I'm all around Boston, let alone the country, going to construction and real estate, networking events, affordable housing, financial, you name it, you know it. So it's been great to connect with so many individuals. And that's actually how we all got acquainted, is through networking events. So excited to delve more into this. But Stephen, I'll pass it over to you.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thanks. And yes, definitely. Amelia, congratulations. That's amazing. And looking forward to the detailed story, because I know this is all late breaking. But yeah, no, really a lot of fun to be here. Looking forward to this. I think, as all of us, definitely a huge proponent of networking, meeting new people, finding interesting connections, finding ways to help other people, essentially. And also have a lot of fun in the process. I know that for everybody, networking is not fun. But I think some of the things we'll talk through as we do the different podcasts, we'll be getting into ways to make it easier for some who maybe that's not as natural, and having really, I think, a good broad-based group of, podcastees on here with us as well, to make sure that we're really coming up with things that are relevant for a broad and diverse group of people. So for me, we have on the screen, I have a lot of titles. It's my company, so I guess I can do what I want. But currently, I am the Director of Enlightenment for Stephen Uncorked. I just got my LLC last week officially, so I guess I'm a real business. And yeah, I do anything around direct-to-consumer wines, a lot of wine events. So Taylor and I actually did a fun one for Eisner Amper last night. And kind of fun tail end of the networking story is there that, number one, I'd met a couple of local partners who were formerly with a different company via a networking event. But then also Taylor had invited me to a Layton, New York City event where I met 2 of the other folks as well. So already pretty connected into Eisner Amper. A lot of fun doing the different things, different events. But just kind of funny how the needle gets threaded in so many different ways as you go through the networking sphere. So again, there's a lot more that I can say about what I do, all the fun wine stuff with corporate gifting, everything coming up. But I'm sure you get plenty of that as we go. So looking forward to it. I'm also recovering CPA. And so it's one of those things, I guess you're never really that far away from it. My background is finance accounting for the last 20 years. Still very much connected in that space, doing a lot of capital markets related work. And also taking a role as a interim CFO at a small company, in addition to all the other fun stuff. So looking forward to meeting you, and obviously continuing to work with this great group of people here.
Awesome. Well, I think what we're all dying to hear about, Amelia, is so you literally are starting a new job. This was like new news to us.
Yes.
You as of yesterday, right? I mean,
yes.
We need to know what happened, and it sounds like there's a great networking story. So maybe we'll start.
Yes, it is. I think I was telling a colleague earlier that, an old colleague, I guess. I mean, we're still going to be working together in some capacities. But I said, if you're not networking for your business, just do it for yourself. Like, the best thing you can do is get out there for your career, for your education, for everything, because you don't really know what opportunities are out there, and you just don't know who you don't know. So this opportunity came about. I mean, we started this podcast. I was still at Insperity. I was loving it. There was really not any plan to be anywhere else for a very long time, to be honest. I was actually out doing my job. So I had been networking. I had attended a few networking events hosted by the director of business development at Supporting Strategies. And just kind of side note, they do outsourced accounting and bookkeeping. So anybody listening, if you need any help with that, let me know. And I had reached out to her because I actually referred clients to Supporting Strategies before. I would do outsourced HR, benefits, payroll. So a lot of those same small businesses also needed that accounting and bookkeeping function. So it was a very easy referral for me to make. So meeting with their director of business development, wanted to talk a little bit more about partnerships, kind of how we could work together, learn more about what they did, what type of clients they had. And about 10 minutes into lunch, she said, I'm actually hiring, and I was hoping that it would be you. So I was totally blindsided by it, but I truly believe that you shouldn't just, you should explore every opportunity. The more I talked to them, the more I understood the role and the opportunity. It really seemed like one I couldn't give up. And then actually talking to a couple of friends of mine after accepting this role, I learned that they had all actually told her, like, you should talk to Amelia. Like, she's definitely, like, you're looking to hire a new person, you need help, and she's the one. So it was really recommendations from my network, networking with the person, and then, just staying honest and transparent and really being yourself. I think that's, people think networking is scary. And this is where I say I love Insperity so much, because I literally had never been to a networking event before I started there. Like, I was like, what do you mean I have to go out and meet strangers? That is weird. Like, that's not my thing. Like, I do not want to do that. And I got the advice, like, forget about social standards. Like, go there and, like, just be yourself. And, like, you see a group of people that you haven't talked to, just walk up and be like, hi, I'm Amelia. Like, what are you guys talking about? What do you do? And the rest is history. I've gone now. I'm going to 3 networking events this week. I don't even start my new job for 2 weeks.
But you need to take time for yourself.
I promise I will. Like, I get to have a little bit more flexibility, but I still want to keep networking, because, again, like, you just really never know. And your network, what do they say? Your net worth is your network.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, because I personally was never a networker most of my career. I've always worked in corporate jobs. I worked at Nabisco and the Hershey Company and all these big companies. And when you're in a big company, you don't need to network, because all the people you need to deal with are there. And I kind of came to networking, it's probably about a year ago, that I really started to network a lot, a little bit before I left my corporate my last corporate job. And what was interesting was, so I have an identical twin brother. So if you see somebody who looks like me around Boston, you're like, oh, you're Jeff from that podcast. It might be my brother Eric. But he actually said something really important to me, which was, he said, all those people that you're worried about ignoring you on LinkedIn, he said, they're already ignoring you. So what does it matter if they ignore you when you send a message or whatever? And I was like, wow, that's so true. And so I have literally made friends, people that I talk to every month, huge, connections, people who I've, I'll go back to and talk to and ask for their advice and whatever. It's just amazing how much you can do. And I just wish I had started doing it much sooner. Every time I meet somebody who's like in business school or whatever, I'm like, you got to just start networking now. I can't imagine, like, if I had started networking, whatever, 20 something years ago or whatever it was, how many more connections I would have and opportunities and so. So I love it.
I think you said something too, Jeff, when you said they're going to ignore you anyways. people, virtually, we have so many, tools and technologies to reach out to people, but they don't know us and we don't know them, and the accessibility, aspect. But when you're in person, and this happened last night, we're talking about Narragansett, Rhode Island, and how we, grew up going there and certain restaurants and fishing. And it's just this natural connection. And I think people are more apt to wanting to get to know you as a person. And along with that building of trust and also likability, like that's a big effort too. Like who, you want to work with someone and talk with someone that you actually enjoy as well. And you get that by being in person. So I think what your brother said, Jeff, was nail on the head
Right.
as far as the concept of networking goes.
Absolutely. And I will say, I have this goal, like at least once a month, I reach out to some random person, semi-random person on LinkedIn. And I'm like, are you interested in hopping on a Zoom call? And I would say most of the time they do hop in. Stephen, I feel like your technology may be glitching a little bit, so I'm going to let you try and get a word in. Are you there?
Yeah, it seems like it's a little slow. I don't know. There's some folks. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you just
Perfect.
Hopefully you can hear me.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I know there's some people working here, so I wonder if they hit something. Hopefully not, because I have more calls later on. But no, I think there's some interesting points there. One of those is exactly what I give to my mentees who are in college or just outside of it, right? And a perfect point there where I think back and I wasn't the best networker, I wasn't a bad one, but I definitely could have done better. And now it's even so much more important. But right, if you pull a list of your LinkedIn connections, you can see when you connected, and it's just amazing, right? Obviously, mine go back now probably 20 years at this point, but it's amazing when you look at the titles and the different jobs that those sort of folks that I met 15, 18, 20, whatever years ago, what it looks like now. And obviously having your network grow with you. So I continue to put that out there. And, I think that really resonates with the group that I'm talking to. And then I think as far as another interesting one is kind of that, people are going to ignore you anyways, that sort of thing. I had a really good sales training back in the day. Maybe this was about a year ago. And I think what I took away from it was the 3 S's. And it's some will, some won't, so what? And that's the same thing, right? You're not going to connect with everybody. And that to me has really stuck with me to this day as I start thinking about connections, that sort of thing. And hey, some are going to mesh better than others, some won't. That's fine. But by getting yourself out there and just kind of meeting that many more people, it's like, at bats, the more you're up there, the better chance you have of hitting it. So I think there are a lot of really good topics here that resonate with me and hopefully with a lot of the viewers as well.
Yeah. And just one note to add to that, I really like that statement. Actually, I'm going to write that down and put that on a sticky note somewhere. But I do a lot of trainings on networking, and some people are naturally more on the extroverted side, some are naturally more on the introverted side, and either or, you can be a great networker. It's not one size fits all by any means. But I think the thing to keep in mind, and I bring this up because I just went through a training, was at networking events, specifically networking events, right? People are there to network. So it's scary. I used to do something that was so silly of me. But when I first started, it was nerve-wracking, especially maybe there's an age difference. Maybe you don't know much about the industry and you're just getting your toes wet, right? My name's Taylor, and I would say Taylor tea time. So I would just go where the coffee and tea is and just keep filling up. I would have to run out to use the restroom, of course, multiple times, but it's just a way to naturally engage with individuals. So I think being able to find what works best for you just to get comfortable with the environment. And then I think naturally it's going to come, to fruition. But I think the biggest thing is, to your point, Stephen, everyone has different personalities. Some people are going to hit it off a little bit more. Maybe you have a personality aligned with the individual you're talking to, but that doesn't mean maybe someone else that's there that there isn't a right away connection. That doesn't mean that there's not a really great opportunity there nonetheless.
Totally. Yeah. And I like what you were saying, Taylor, kind of about, getting out of your comfort zone, and that everybody is there to network. The best advice I got as I was actually just graduated college, and my old riding coach said, I don't know why it's so hard for people just to be nice. She goes, when has anybody judged anyone for being too nice? And it seems so simple, but when you have that mentality and you just walk into a room, it's just like, just be nice, be normal. Like, go say hi. Like shit,
Yes.
it's gonna be like, wow, that girl just like stuck her hand out and said hi, nice to meet you. Like, what a weirdo. Like, no one's ever going to say but that action seems so scary. But really, everyone's always going to come away with a positive interaction from you if that's how you start. So I think, when people think of networking is scary, that I always come back to that little comment that she said to me right after I graduated college.
So it's funny, you just reminded me of one of the first Chamber of Commerce, Charles River Chamber of Commerce events that I ever went to was a holiday party, and there are all these people there. And I remember coming back to my and talking to my wife, and I said I came up with this idea of what I called the lone zebra, and the lone zebra was, I said, I just find the one person that looks more shy and introverted than I am feeling, and I'm going to go talk to them because they're just going to be so grateful that somebody came and talked, because they're standing there by the tea and thinking I should be networking, but I don't really want to walk up to people. Anyways, so that was my funny story. Like, can I be the second most introverted person? It's actually really interesting though, because I actually think over the last year, maybe I've actually turned into an extrovert.
I feel like I would take you as an extrovert, which is so funny. But I like that you.
I was literally looking at like a Myers-Briggs that I did, like, I don't know, probably 10 years ago, and I was an introvert back then. I think it's really interesting. I don't think you're supposed to change, but I think I did.
It's growth. It's experience too that takes it. You reminded me, actually, my roommate in college, she's very much an extrovert, and always mentioned that that's something that which again, there's no need to work on that whatsoever, but there was just certain qualities she wanted to work on, just being more comfortable with public speaking and presenting and talking, putting herself out there, if you will. But because of her, I have more of a sense of appreciation for individuals that I might have not recognized before as introverts. And that's maybe why they're being a little bit more quiet, or we're making eye contact, but not introducing. Where in my mind, like, it's respectful to go and say, make eye contact, like, hi, I'm Taylor. But now I also, Jeff, I do typically, I can kind of tell from body language and all of that. And, it's nice to have those conversations, because again, it'd be a real miss if you weren't, didn't put yourself out there again, and identify maybe those people's, and some really great business and personal connections have been made from that.
Yeah.
And,
go
go
right ahead, Stephen. Sorry about that.
No, I was just gonna say, I think similar to Jeff, right? I think that for me, a lot of times I look for those folks, right, kind of out of the corner of your eye type of thing. It's like you see that person just standing there, like with the light in the eyes type of, or headlights, that sort of thing. It's like, it's very easy just to do one of these. Hey, come on, meet Jeff and John and whoever Taylor at this group, whoever it might be, right? And just to say, hey, pull them in, that sort of thing. And in reality, sometimes it also works well there, because you're also trying to get out of that group that you've been in for a little bit too long, right? And you want to kind of move and talk to a different group, that sort of thing too. So it's really kind of a win-win in a lot of those. Obviously, you still talk to the person first and not just run off to the next group. But I think that's really been works well for both and everybody in doing that sort of thing. So I fully agree with that. I think, and certainly there was a time when I was more so that person. So you definitely do appreciate it. The other thing I would say is, for the people who are maybe new to networking, that sort of thing, you probably don't want to show up at the middle of the event, right? Because that's going to be a little bit potentially scarier in those cases, right? Where it's
overwhelming.
People have already started to talk in their groups, that sort of thing, right? So I think for the newcomers, it's really good to kind of try to get there at the beginning, and maybe you are doing what Taylor said, right? And you're the tea or coffee type person, kind of situate yourself there. You at least find one or two people that you can talk to pretty quickly. And, again, they call it water cooler chat or whatever, tea chat, whatever you want to call it. It's the same thing there. It's just an easy way to jump right into it in a relatively low risk environment.
Now, there was something interesting. No, it was just something you said, and I was like, oh, this is a good question. I'd love to hear everybody's answer. Because we've all been to networking events where someone's talking, and you're like, okay, how do I get out of this? And I am so polite in these situations. I will sit there and talk to them for 2 hours. And I'm like, I don't want to be rude. And that's where my social anxiety comes in. And I don't want to offend anyone. So what are your tips and tricks? I know mine are, oh, I need a new drink, or I'm going to run to the restroom real quick. I'll catch you later. But I was curious if anyone else had any tips and tricks for new networkers, though, when they do get stuck in one of those conversations, how they can easily and politely exit.
Well, I mean, I often just do the like, hey, this has been so great. Let's, either connect on LinkedIn or do the business card thing. But then I'm like, hey, I'm gonna go chat with some other folks. I mean, just like, or I want to go meet more people or whatever it is. People know why you're there, right?
Yeah,
Totally.
like I agree. I was gonna say I sometimes will do like the restroom or grab a drink, but I think the business card or we should definitely connect, and that's kind of people who can pick up naturally on cues, because there's some people that can't, and that's fine. But usually that'll be like, okay, conversation is over. And to your point again, Jeff, I was sort of just being very honest, because Amelia, I'm the same way. And sometimes I have to do it to myself, because I could also talk happily for hours. And so, but again, you're there for a reason, and it's not quantity over quality by any means. But say, to your point, you get there and you hit it off with someone right away, which is awesome. But there's still like 45 minutes left before, say, the panelists come on or something like that. Like, you do still want to be able to reap the benefits of being there. You either drove there, you took time out of your day. So it's being polite in the sense of, hey, with trying to get a touch, with one of the panelists before they go on or something like that. But let's say connected, or set up a coffee or lunch. That's one of the best things. You're already in person. Let's set up, 1-to-1 to 30 minutes and grab coffee.
I was at a networking event a couple weeks ago, up at the top of the. Haven't you been to the new like top of the Prudential Tower?
Yeah, the View, I think it's called.
Yeah.
I haven't, but the architecture firm that did it, I saw the showcase, and they did such a beautiful job. I need to be there in person.
It's so good. But it was up there, and we're like having, there was just drinks, light hors d'oeuvres, whatever it was. And I sit down at this table, and I get stuck in this conversation with this guy who I'm trying to think of what's the nice, polite on-air version of it. I mean, he was just pompous, right? I mean, just I couldn't even I was just trying to get him to be like, let's sort of do like the agree to disagree kind of thing or whatever it was, or just give him some face saving, say something nice to him and maybe he'll say something nice to me. And he just kept going, and I was just finally I'm like, oh, I need to find some way out of this. So I don't remember whether it was the bathroom or the drinks or something, but I was I am out. But it was so funny because it was actually it was a University of Rochester, whereas I went to business school as an event for the University of Rochester, and it was so interesting because it was mostly more recent grads. I was like one of the old guys or whatever, and there was nobody networking. They were just talking to their friends, and I'm just like, why are we at a networking event to talk to our friends? To meet people. And so I would be like, talk to someone a little bit, and then I pull out my phone and show people, that cool thing you can do on LinkedIn where you can scan or whatever, and everybody's like, I've never seen that before, or whatever. But half of them are like, oh, I never go on LinkedIn. I'm like, I don't even understand. I'm like, I don't understand.
LinkedIn is such a valuable tool, and utilizing it, there's definitely roles and responsibilities and positions in companies where it's, you don't need but I think that, if you're in any kind of role like any of us where we do want business development, we are trying to build more, you got to have a presence on LinkedIn, and, it's only going to showcase your network. And then what I find is then people see, oh, you're connected with that person. Do you mind making that introduction? And it elevates you to that next level where they can see, oh, this person is a connector, and I want to talk to them because they're also somebody who's probably going to bring you value, but you want to be able to bring value too.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say that's something that I think a lot of people don't talk about with networking is, you can't go into it about what am I going to get out of this.
Right.
It's a give to get mentality. Yep. And I've been told since day one of starting networking, you are going to feel like you give way more than you can. And for people, I was so self-conscious when I first started, because I'm like, I don't have, I just started this job. I don't have a network. And, this was 3.5 years ago at this point. But one of my bosses said, you have time. That is something, time is valuable. Not everybody has time. So if you can show up to support somebody in any way, shape, or form, start there and then grow it. And I had somebody approach me being like, I'm not getting anything out of networking. And I said, well, why are you trying to get something out of it?
Right.
Like, I mean, yes, obviously we all do it because we do want something at the end of the day. But if you're evaluating every single person with how are you going to help me? What are you going to do for me? People pick up on that pretty quickly.
Yes.
And then they're like, well, maybe you're just a user. And
Yeah.
it's about trying to find real valuable connections. Like some of the best people I've met from networking who are so like some of them are now like my best friends. They are people we've never referred business back and forth because our industries just don't align. But we love hanging out and we have people who we can introduce to each other. And that's where we've really found our synergies.
Yeah, I think too, like with what you were mentioning, I think Jeff and Amelia, you had a lot of alignment
it's funny.
between.
So I will quickly also.
You go ahead, Stephen, because the Wi-Fi.
Oh,
did he just get kicked off?
Yeah, sorry about that.
You're back.
I'm here.
We're good.
What I would say there is also to answer. All right, so also to answer Amelia's question before, because that is definitely something that happens to all of us many times, right? You're in a situation and it's like, okay, well, you still want to meet another person or whatever it might be, or this is going on too long. One of the things that I found that works really well there is, clearly thinking through like, what does that person represent? What would be helpful to them? And then just doing the scan of the room, especially to the events you've been to before where you know a bunch of people. And then basically being able to then grab somebody and say, hey, meet Jackie or whoever it might be, as I think that you'd really benefit from chatting on topic X, something that would mutually benefit them. And then, you're doing a nice exit, but also doing something to connect a couple people that makes sense. The other thing that I'll do a lot is if I think through the chamber events, at least for the Charles River, to the extent you're a member, you have a general sense as to who's going to be there at the meetings, right? Because you get the list in advance. And in those cases, what I'll do is take a look at that. And typically there are a few people that I want to meet on there for whatever reason. In some cases, it's because I think related to what I'm doing on the wine side, it's relevant, or prior employers, or just in general, sometimes I'll see two people on the list that I want to connect because I think it'd be good for them to connect. So just kind of going in, I guess, with the intentionality there also gives you a really good and honest reason to say, hey, I still would love to talk to person Y before I leave, and there's about 500 minutes. So again, really nice to meet you, but I'd really like to talk to that person really quick before I leave. So that's worked well for me as well.
Yeah, being a linchpin, I listened to a podcast when I first started networking, and I was trying to find it earlier before we jumped on, and I couldn't find it. So I'll have to ask the woman who sent it to me. But it was all about being a linchpin and becoming the center of a group. So if, for example, in Stephen's case, you can talk to someone and say, oh, you should meet this person. Let me bring them over. And then you see another person, you bring them over. And then all of a sudden you've created a circle of 4 or 5 people. And now you're the person who's brought them all together. And then you take that a step further. Bring them out all to dinner. Have a dinner with them. Get to know them more. And all of a sudden you've become the core of that group. And that is so important in networking.
Yep.
I agree. And what I was going to mention before was, I think there's almost a difference between a networker and a connector, because as you were mentioning, Jeff, you were at this networking event and there was different groups and they were kind of staying in their groups, which is very natural for people, right? You stay to what you're comfortable with. And I think to bring it, to a personal note, I've had, say friend groups and you're all in the same area for, say, it's a celebration or something. It's natural for me to be, hey, so-and-so, I'm in a conversation and then I, due to something specific they said that's personal, I know that this person in the other group would appreciate or align with that. So then you connect and then you start hurting, if you will, the individuals and bringing them together. So that's why I'm curious if you all think, the different aspects of a true connector to a true networker, because I think you can network easily. Or again, it's still difficult, but then that connector part is a big thing. And to your point, Amelia, of, the linchpinning, bringing people together. I mean, that again is really bringing people together, but finding those common aspects, those similarities. And I mean, that goes a really long way too, with people just how they view you and value you overall.
Yeah. I think everybody starts as a networker and they can evolve into a connector. Of the reality of it is, if you don't have a network, who are you connecting people with?
Right.
Like,
That's
and not to be blunt, I'm sorry if that sounds mean, but that's the honest reality of it. So, but there are people who, like, I've ran into them plenty of times again. They are serial networkers. They just want to network and network, but they don't really care about referring people. They just want to see new people. Sometimes, like, they're just in this one networking group, and that's kind of their social activity, which is fine. I think that's great. And those types of groups, in certain businesses, that works super, super well. But once you've built your network, I think it took me like 3 years. So now when I meet someone, I'm like, oh, I should introduce you to this person and this person, because you two would have a really good conversation about this, and you two would have a really good conversation about this. And like, when we leave this dinner, lunch, networking event, I have your business card. I'm going to set up time for us, but I'm also going to send those two or three introductions as well. Like, that's how Stephen and I got connected.
Devil's advocate, though, because I find this actually to be a very interesting conversation. Devil's advocate. Do you think it's also to do with mindset? Because I would agree with you. You need to have a network to be a kind of a connector. But at the same time, it could be, say I'm straight out of college. I'm at my first networking event. I haven't done anything like that. And I'm talking with you, Amelia, and you're, telling me something about your new animal. And then I immediately find myself talking with Jeff later on in the evening.
Yeah.
And he mentions a new vet that's amazing. And I'm like, oh, well, I just picked up on something with Amelia. Like, maybe I should just share the contact information. So that's why I'm devil's advocate on that mindset. Because I think some people, and back to your whole point of give and take versus just take. I think that's the big differentiator of mindset going into these things.
Totally. And maybe some people are more naturally connectors, where they do just, it's really about that active listening and really listening and understanding what people are saying, and then being able to relate that back to what someone else said. And, some people are really good at it. Active listening was something that I had to work on. And it's something, we all need to professionally develop in one way or another. That was a weak spot of mine. I would get one idea and I would be like, I can't wait to ask this question. I can't wait to and a lot of that's my ADHDs, but like really taking a step back, breathing, and just being in the moment. If the question goes by and you're going to have another question. And that's where that active listening comes in. And I think it's, maybe it is just a mindset, but you'll eventually, I think, good networker, people who go into networking for the right reasons, all end up becoming connectors. But some people are just naturally way better at connecting than others.
Absolutely. Hey, I know you're all going to be like, I can't believe this, but we are 30 minutes in, and so we probably should wrap up this episode. I think we've got tons of ideas for future episodes. I'm going to let Stephen go first, only because I'm worried that if we let you go second, nobody will know if you're talking or not.
We'll definitely get this fixed for next time.
What is one thing that you want to leave this podcast with?
No, I really like the idea, and I know we've talked about like connectors versus networkers. And as I think through just pure networkers, I think of the number of people oftentimes starting off where you literally see it's like a casino dealer with the business cards, right? Like literally, oh, here's my card, and kind of that's they're working the crowd. But then on the you said connector, I've liked to call them super connectors. And I look to my network, and really that's kind of the way I think of it, right? Is that those people, they want to do it, and yes, sometimes there's personal gain, a lot of times there's not, but ultimately it really helps everybody at the end of that. So I like the term super connector, and I'll actually give credit to that to one of the guys I used to work with at KPMG, but that was really his thing, is think through who are your super connectors and have a conversation with them, like ask them how they do it. And again, a lot of it I won't say it can all be taught. I think that there are some people who are just naturally better at it than others, but certainly the more you do it, like anything else, the better you get at it. And so super connector is my word, and leave behind.
I like that.
Amelia, you want to jump in next?
Oh yeah, sorry, I was just giving Stephen his props.
Awesome job.
Yeah, good job. No, I love this. I feel like sorry to listeners and viewers who just watched us ramble for about every topic from networking. But I think that was the point of this first podcast, and I'm excited to from here, dig into different topics, start featuring customers, our super connectors, different events that we're attending in the Boston area. I don't know, maybe we can get good enough where we like tell people what events not to go to. I feel like that could be really exciting too. But I feel like this was a great podcast to start. We'll see.
Awesome. Taylor?
Yeah, I think a big thing that I would love that, this platform that we're trying to bring, leaves with people is the understanding and confidence in being able to not just network. I think networking is such a broad term, but whether it impacts your professional work, how you view yourself personally, how you, navigate through friendships or whatever it might be from a professional and personal realm. I think that when hearing other people's experiences, it's like reading a book, right? It gives you these ideas and, again, perspectives and examples. So really just having a platform where people can hopefully take things away and then share some wins and failures. I know I will. But I always find it reassuring, when I hear other people speak about their experiences and either know that I'm not alone or I'm given these ideas or I'm given some type of confidence. So that's ideally what, I hope everyone takes away from.
Awesome. And I will just say, I'm going to pick up on, there was the word linchpin, there was the word super connector. Maybe because it's Boston, we want to be the hub, but I think that for me, the whole idea behind this podcast and some of the other things that we've talked about, whether it's creating events or whatever, is how do we create this hub of Boston networking? And so I'm looking forward to doing more of these with you all, because we're going to become the Wicked Connected hub in Boston. So
should we say what networking events we're going to at on each podcast for the week? I don't know. That was just an idea that popped in my head.
Yeah, absolutely. If you have some that you're going to,
so I'm going to an FEI, so Financial Executives International. I have an event tonight with them. I'm excited. It's a fireside chat about AI. The last time we had an event like that, we couldn't stop the questions. We were like, we need to have another one. Awesome. Then tomorrow I'll be at the ABI Metro West Life Sciences networking event where there's going to be over 400 people. They generally have one in the summer and the spring, summer, and fall. They're big events, and it gets pretty much everyone in the biotech space together for just drinks, fun, games outside. It's honestly a great time. So I don't know if anyone else has any other ones, but I just wanted to shamelessly plug the ones that I was going to, just to give them.
Well, I can say tomorrow I'm actually the featured speaker for the Association of Women in Science, and I'm going to be talking about having a learner mindset and
Very cool.
and all the middle management stuff that I like to talk about.
That's exciting. Yeah, I'd say, tomorrow I'm a member and part of one of the committees for CREW, Women in Commercial Real Estate. So we have a hard hat tour tomorrow in Dorchester on a new development, which is always fun. The women there are amazing. And then I recently got introduced to a new nonprofit organization for specifically affordable housing called the Leadership Lounge. And I'm really excited. The founder of that seems to have a very fascinating background. My professional network friend Becca told me about it, so I will update you all on how it goes, but it seems to be really enticing.
Absolutely.
Steven, got one?
Yeah, of course. So yesterday we had the great event, and again it was one that Eisner had us come in for. So again, there's always networking in any way, shape, or form. It was a lot of fun. We did a wine blending session, so make your own Bordeaux style blend. Really just something cool and different. Tonight, I will be joining Amelia as well at the Endicott event, so looking forward to that. And then tomorrow, I'm missing the Abbey Lab event as I have I'm joining a couple of the folks from the Good Shepherd, so a not-for-profit as well that does hospice care free of charge for the area. Really one of the only ones in the area that still does that at no cost. So a great organization. We're doing an event for the donors. So that'll be really nice in Newton. And then on Thursday, I am doing a Wine, Wills, and Wealth. So basically co-hosting that with a couple of folks. That will be in Braintree. So if there's anybody who is thinking about estate planning or any sort of the financial planning, those sort of things, and is interested in that, we'll be doing an event in Braintree. So let me know.
Awesome. Well, this has been a
So
great
action-packed week for I think all of us. It sounds like.
Yeah.
It's been a great first episode, and this is going to be fun. So
Yeah.
see you next.
See you next week. Thanks, everyone.
Perfect.
Bye. Thanks.